Hi everyone. Wanted to take a little time here and do a little bit of a review on a rifle that I have a love-hate relationship with, and that is my SIG 556. I've been shooting this gun a lot lately. I kind of go, probably like everybody, I kind of go in cycles to which of my rifles I shoot, and this one I've been shooting it a lot lately, mostly because I got a new optic for it, and a new setup, which I'll talk about. But most of you have heard of the SIG 556. Maybe some of you have had the opportunity to shoot it, or somebody who has one. I'll give you a quick story on my initial experience with this rifle. I was at my range in my club probably about 3 years back, and there was a guy there a little bit older than me, probably mid to late 40s, and he was sitting at the bench, just old school range style, holding it on a rest, shooting it for groups at 150 yards with the included SIG red dot. And he was going back to get his targets, and we were kind of talking because I had my AR there, and I just couldn't believe his groups. I mean, either he was a really great shooter, which I don't put that past anybody, I don't doubt anybody's skills, or he had an exceptionally accurate rifle. He was just shooting 5.56 ball ammo, 62 grain, and his groups were incredible. At 150 yards, he was getting like fist-sized groups, 2.5 inches, what I thought was really impressive. He let me shoot the rifle, and I just couldn't believe how smooth it was. It just felt like a Cadillac. I mean, it was just smooth and just really felt good. The rifle had some weight to it, which is always nice for a range gun. And, I went back shooting my AR after that, and, it was a standard 16-inch Bushmaster carbine gas system, and it felt jumpy, by comparison. So I always put it in the back of my head that one day I was going to own one of these rifles if the opportunity came up. So sure enough, recently, several months back, a good friend of mine, who is an law enforcement officer, and who has an affinity for guns of all kinds, put one of his on the market for sale, and we did a little bit of trading and some wheeling and dealing, and I got this for a really, really good price, and I really like it. But the rifle has a lot of cons to it, and if you've ever been to the SIG forum or and seen some of the posts on there, you might know what I'm talking about. But just go. What I'll do is just kind of go through some of the cons, and then go through the pros, and hopefully you'll get like a nice comprehensive review and have an idea of this rifle. I'm not an expert on this rifle by any means. It's still foreign to me. I can literally take an AR apart, and put it back together blindfolded. This gun is very simple. But, I'm by no means an authority or an expert on it. But I do think that I know enough as a layman and as a recreational operator to give you a pretty nice, review of the pros and cons on it. So let's do some cons first. First off, weight. It's a heavy beast for anybody. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're a big, giant, strong guy. It's a heavy gun. I mean, it is for being a carbine. It's over 8 pounds, and with this little beast on here, this Aimpoint Comp M4, it's got some decent weight to it because it's a full length piston system in here, and it's heavy. I think it's got a pencil barrel to cut the weight, and I'm not a fan of pencil barrels either, so that we could just throw that as a con right now, because when you do high volume shooting and the gun starts to heat up, accuracy with a thin barrel will degrade. Parts. All of the parts for this gun are proprietary to SIG. There are some websites that do carry SIG's maintenance package for this, which has a spring for the recoil spring, and some internal parts and springs. But as far as like changing out the stock, I know you can put an AR buffer and put an AR stock. I'm not a big fan of doing that. I mean, I kind of like it being SIG-ish and not putting AR stuff. But even like the there's not even a place to get like a replacement pistol grip. Like if you set it down hard or something, or you scrape up your grip and or even hand guards. I have a nice little gash on the top of my hand guard. Probably can't pick it up with my camera, but it's right there. And I wouldn't mind replacing that, if you could get, but only SIG website has these hand guards for $80. So for $80, I'll just deal with it. Okay. So the sights are a nightmare if you don't get that diopter sight. The only other option is to do the flip ups that Samson has them. And I think a couple other companies have them too. But what's bad about the flip ups is their AR height. So let me tell you what that means. That means that your cheek weld will suck, because this has like kind of like a standard rifle cheek weld where the stock kind of goes down. Whereas an AR, because the buffer tube extends directly behind the barrel and everything's in line, everything on an AR has to be higher, which is why the aim point would sit higher to co-witness. So you have AR style sights, which means no cheek weld. Okay. So I didn't like that. I was a fan of keeping the sights at their height. But the problem I had is the hooded SIG sight, that giant hood raised the sight of the height, and it always just seemed to be right in the way of the red dot, just right in the way of it. So what I did was I machined the top off, and I did I'm pretty happy with the job I did. I'm not a machinist by any means, but I took that top off, and now I have a nice clear path. And this co-witnesses nicely. And a lot of people talk trash on this little popsicle stick backup sight, but as long as it's being used as a backup and not a primary, I think it's fine. It gives back and forth both ways. I think that's just for, if it got hit, because it is a little more flimsy, but it's adjustable for windage and elevation. I have it dialed in at 50 yards. And I like that when you fold it down, it's completely out of the way. I mean, completely gone. So it's okay. It's not it's not the greatest thing. Another con is fit. This rifle is fit like crap. Okay. This rear stock wobbled so badly. I actually put a little bit of, what I did is I cut pieces of duct tape and put it in the receiver there, and just kept cutting like little layers and putting them in to tighten this up. So I got this about as tight as a fixed stock now, and for a folding stock, it's pretty tight. But look at that gap right there between the top. I mean, it's terrible. And I did a little the AccuEdge that you can put in the ARs. I did kind of my own setup with a piece of rubber that I had here off of a bicycle tube, and I'm not going to bore you and pop it off, but it's in there, and it tightened it up pretty good. This rail, the rails on here, kind of, it may be a good thing and a bad thing, but can you see the screws? The rails are removable. So, you have rails that aren't built into the gun, and this is bowed a little bit. There's probably no way you're going to pick this up with this camera, but when I hold this up to light, this this rail isn't fit perfectly to the top of the receiver. And I noticed that if I move the aim point from here to about back here, everything is fine. But if I try to move the aim point to the very front, the point of impact completely changes, which means these rails are not fit perfectly to the receiver. There's no cant in the sights at all. And just, it's a rattle box. I mean, the front end kind of shakes, and it's by no means my my best fit rifle. But what I can tell you leading into the pros is this is one of those things where, imagine a car going down the road and it's like an old beat up Chevy Impala, right? And you look at it and you don't think anything of it, but under the hood is a brand new 2012 race car engine. That's kind of my take on this gun. I didn't get this gun for the SIG quality control. I didn't get it for the aftermarket parts. I got it for the operating system, which I think is just, I think it's a great operating system. It just kind of takes the best parts of the AK with the rotating bolt and the piston, and kind of melds, puts it into an AR style, kind of style design. It just shoots so dang smooth. If anyone's ever shot this gun, I usually don't forget about it because it shoots so nicely. It comes with such a nice stock trigger. You can see the chamber is empty down there. You can see the bolt release is in the same spot as the AR. It operates a little bit differently. Push it up, the bolt slams home. But the trigger is a 2-stage, and it can, when you shoot rapidly, it feels like a light 1-stage, but it's got a really light first stage, and then you see it hit that plunger, just a really, really light second stage, smooth pull, so smooth. With the way this gun ejects, you know, with an AR, it just kind of methodically spits those cartridges out, you know, to the side. This thing just throws the brass or the steel, whatever you're shooting, I mean, 10, 15 feet into the air to the right. It's very dramatic. It's very powerful. The barrel is not chrome lined. It's nitride treated, which is supposed to be harder than chrome lining. And the bolt is nitride treated, the rotating bolt in there as well. It's just a strong action. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've been on the fence with getting rid of this rifle a few times, just because I do that sometimes. You know, a lot of us probably do that. You know, we get a gun and that maybe we've always wanted to own or try out. We get it, we shoot it a little bit, and you know, it's something that we enjoy, but maybe it's just not a keeper. This is a keeper for me because I've never had a failure with it. This is the only weapon of this type that I've ever owned for my purposes, which are recreational shooting, essentially, that I've never had a jam in. All of my ARs, I've owned 5 ARs over the years, and I've had different failures in them for various reasons. Ammo, I put everything through this gun. I put all brands of Russian steel ammo, Brown Bear, Silver Bear, Wolf Tula, all old Milsurp ammo, SS-109, 55 grain, 45 grain. I put 75 grain Hornady. I mean, everything. And it has eaten everything and just functioned flawlessly. I've read anecdotal reports of people having 40,000 rounds, which seems obviously excessive. I don't think a barrel could last that long, but through this, without any parts changes, I you know, that's probably a stretch, but I don't doubt that there's been very, very good reliability. And it just seems hit or miss with that, because some people will say that there's jams with some ammo, and I just haven't seen it with this gun. It's just been flawless, and in that regard, I cannot find it in my heart to get rid of it. I just can't. So here's what I did to mine, just to make it better, I guess, for me. I put a little rail here just because SIG sells the 3-piece rail, and I didn't need 3. I thought that was excessive. You know, that one can go here, one can go here, one can go at the bottom and here. So instead of doing that, I got the Magpul, the second to the smallest Magpul rail, which fit perfectly into these 2 holes. So, you know, $5. Okay, obviously I talked about how I cut the hood off the front sight. If you want to change the performance of any of your ARs or anything without getting into changing out stocks and all that stuff, change your trigger and change your muzzle device. That will change how your gun shoots. And I didn't want to touch this trigger because I feel like this trigger is great. I feel like it's you're hard pressed to find a better trigger, let alone one that comes standard with the gun. But I did put the PWS 556 on here, and it turned a smooth shooting gun into a smooth shooting pellet gun. I mean, it's unbelievable. This gun has no muzzle rise, no recoil. To say it's a joy to shoot would just be a complete understatement. It's instinctively, when I have some time to go to the range, it's the gun that I gravitate towards all the time. I just enjoy shooting it that much, okay? And of course, I think I missed this, but you know, the stock folds, and that'll loosen up someday, I'm sure. And I just hope that I have the parts or the, you know, access to the parts to replace what I need to. And then the Aimpoint Comp M4, which I got a good deal on. I bought it from a friend, and it's just a cool optic, you know, 8 years on a AA battery. What I like most about it is the 2MOA dot. It has the, I was thinking about putting one of the Aimpoint micros on here to save some weight, but this rail is so long compared to an AR, I thought that the micro might just look silly sitting out there all by itself, and it's got a 4MOA dot. So So anyway, I could go on talking about this. One last point I wanted to talk about. I didn't really get into the gas system at all, but the piston is up here and the recoil spring is too, and it kind of hooks into the bolt. So everything is forward. And a lot of people say they get that sensation when they're shooting this rapidly on target, that the rifle's kind of pulling it back into place. And I wonder if that has something to do with it. Maybe if anybody has more experience with the engineering aspect of this gun. And it also has the adjustable piston, which you can turn to allow more gas in a situation where maybe the rifle's gummed up or muddy or whatnot. It's not something you want to shoot on a regular basis. It'll create more stress and trauma for the internal components. But I thought that's kind of a nice feature, as long as you just make sure you don't bump it or accidentally turn it and leave it there. Because I tested it at the range and I really couldn't find a difference in recoil. So yeah, you could very easily turn it and forget about it and shoot 400 or 500 rounds and be like, oh damn, and just beat the hell out of my bolt for nothing. So anyway, as far as how the rifle handles, well, the charging handle is on the right, like an AK. You have an ambidextrous safety here in the same spot as an AR, but it's weird. It doesn't really allow you to use it as easy. You kind of have to, shift your grip to put it down into the firing position. So it's not as ergonomic, I guess you could say, but the rifle itself feels so good. I mean, the stock feels, kind of like an AR stock, but then you have this nice long handguard that extends out and tapers that allows you to hold the rifle with a forward hold. That's kind of in vogue these days with the in the AR pop culture, to get that front hold on the rifle. So the mag release is in the same spot as an AR, and the bolt release is in the same spot as an AR. Of course, it operates up and down. So that's pretty much it. That's a wrap on this, what I think is a fine rifle. And, has its pros and cons like anything. But for me, I'll be keeping it. Thanks.